candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Abeg Vex podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode here at Abeg Vex. So I have with me Mr. Utkarsh, a learning consultant, executive coach, facilitator, content creator based in Melbourne, Australia. He has learned to design a life based on his terms. Beautiful, through a value-based approach. How many of us can say that? I absolutely love this. Life on your own term. Can you tell us how you did that?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, Idong Sid. And I want to be very, very careful of how I pronounce your name because I don't want to do injustice to a beautiful name. I think the journey that we've all been given of this human life, I think it's very precious. And sometimes just because society has asked us to live in a certain way, has asked us to define success in the millions of dollars, the big mansions, the big cars, and the expensive things that we can purchase, I think we lose our way sometimes because to me, that's not what the priority of life should be and can be. I think for me, it's very important that the day that we have today, when I'm born in the morning, that's the best day of my life. And there's this beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi that's always resonated with me, where he used to say that when I sleep at night, I die. And then the next morning, I'm born again. It just simplifies life a lot. And that's what's helped me build a life on my own terms, which has gone 39 years now on the planet. Beautiful time spent with family in India, then across the planet, now in Melbourne, Australia, and through multiple careers, which we'll have more conversations about.
Absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. And the conversation that we're going to have today is going to really talk about the genesis, okay, of having the boldness to step out and live life in a way that you've been able to do it unapologetically, especially when it has to do with society and culture. And you mentioned your Indian heritage, and it makes this conversation so much richer because we're coming from a heritage and background where your profession is kind of predestined at birth. Right? You know, when you're born into a Nigerian household, you're already told you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, those, high paying, high converting careers that are not wrong, right? But, those careers work well. They still do. But in the age that we're in, that is not the age of our parents or grandparents or aunties and uncle, sometimes it's difficult for us to explain or have them buy into finding our purpose, right? So do you find that that's true for you where you are right now in your life and career?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say that, it very deeply resonates because I was born to parents who were doctors. So dad, a general physician, mom, a PhD in botany. And so from the moment I was born, it was almost predestined that Utkarsh, when you grow up, then you got to be a doctor as well. And I never felt that I was compelled or forced to do it. I enjoyed studying. I enjoyed this prospect of having a practice, taking care of patients. And it always, I found joy in that journey. And so that's what I did. I became a physical therapist. I had a master's in orthopedic physiotherapy and I started running my clinics.
Wow.
And there was a lot of joy through that process. And I never felt like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Right.
But after about 6-7 years, the big realization that started to come was that I want to have like a deeper impact on the planet. I want to touch lives in Europe, in the US, maybe Australia. And I never knew where the path of life could take me, but I wanted to experiment with my life. And that's when I went to my parents and said, I need to run some experiments with life. And they're like, Utkarsh, what's wrong with you? You've done 6-7 years of studies. You've achieved a certain level. I had 3 clinics in Delhi, India at that time. And I told them that I want to sell this all off and start a new career. And they were like, what will you do? You first find what you want to do, and then we'll see what's possible. And so I started networking. I met a few people. And that's where my journey kind of unfolded when I met a professor at Columbia Business School in New York who was ready to trust and put his money on me in a way. That 2013 is when I joined that institute, and there has been no looking back since then. And life's evolved in beautiful ways.
I so love that story, and I love your journey so far, because even as an adult that we've accomplished things in life, from a cultural standpoint, sometimes we have that concern of disappointing our parents who have our futures already planned out or organized for us, right? So I want us to have a conversation about giving a child not giving a child their voice, because the children already have their voice, right? So I want to have the conversation of the importance of empowering a child's voice, right? So given the trajectory that your life took and kind of reinventing yourself, did you always have the thoughts of not having the traditional medical career, but you had the burden of feeling like you had to fulfill something because of your parents' successes and their career? Or this is something that happened over time in your adulthood?
Yeah. When I was in that moment, as a young child, I had all the joys of life that I could imagine, because my dad was a physician. He had his clinic just kind of on the lower floor of our home. I used to play cricket with him in the clinic, so that was there was memories of joy through that experience. But I think what also happened is that through that journey somewhere, there was this insatiable curiosity to learn, to question, to seek more. And that's what allowed me to kind of transform this journey in a way. But here's the thing: in those moments, I did not know that if I'm standing up against my parents in any way, because I was unconditionally respectful.
Mm-hmm.
I was unconditionally loving, because
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that they've given me so many beautiful resources to be who I want to be. But through that journey, they allowed me that space. They were always in a way that, you want to run experiments, we support you, but you got to come and reach out to us if you feel challenged. So that way, I feel that I'm very lucky through that journey, that I've had. But here's the challenge, as parents, the parent of any generation, like, if so I now have two kids who are 13 and 10. My understanding of world is very different from what they have, and my parents' understanding of the world was very different from what I had. But the challenge that comes up in Ong is that it's the fear that's instilled by parents at a very young age, that you got to listen to me. Why are you asking so many questions?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Do you not know how to behave yourself? Do you not know how to or what to wear? I think when parents start to use these words and this language, that's when they diminish the voice of the child. And that's what something that they should not do.
So in a traditional culture, okay, and this is great that you and I are talking on this, because in the Western world, it's easier to practice that, right? But in a traditional culture, we're having an opinion or having a desire of doing something other than what you're expected to do. Um, what will be your take on supporting parents in a culture, a very cultured, a very structured culture?
I'm just saying it's such a complex challenge that you and I are talking about, that I wish there was like one solution. But I think what both parties in this case, the child and the parent, both need to understand is that we don't know everything. We got to come from that mindset, that mind frame, that even though I'm the parent, I'm the elder one, I might be wrong, and that's okay. And even the child needs to understand that what the parent is trying to do is based on their perception the best they can do. And sometimes I also say that it's like the world is nothing but 8 billion perceptions, and each one trying to prove that my perception is better than yours.
Mm.
And that happens in the parenting relationship also. So what I would say is that as parents, we got to realize that the world is changing very quickly, and we need to be patient with this changing world. If you try and force something on a child, if you try and change their behavior based on what you think is right, then you might hurt them more than you can imagine. Then you might break them and not allow them to have that voice. And what I do, is that I now coach people. And so I was once coaching someone at a very large tech company in the US. And they kept coming back, Utkarsh, I cannot speak to my manager in a loud voice. I cannot give them feedback. It's very hard for me to challenge them that this is not right or this is not wrong. And we kept going through the same cycle again and again, till about 2-3 sessions later, the breakthrough came when this person said, I remember I was 7 years old, and if I would not excel in my class, not come first in my class, my mom would say that, what the hell are you doing? And she would say that by coming second, you're a disgrace to the family. And that sound still echoes in my ears. 30 years later, as I'm thinking about my manager, I'm still thinking about my mom telling me that, oh, you cannot do this, right? What the hell is wrong with you? You're a disgrace. So I think we as parents, and I take that, and my wife and I, we take that challenge every single day. We have to be very thoughtful in using the right words for our children. And I don't want you to think that you have to go to the extreme now where you say, oh, child, do whatever you have to do. You have all the freedom that you can in the world, because they're also learning. And just before our conversation, we were having I was sharing the story with you. So when our boys were born, they're now 13 and 10. But when they were trying to learn to walk, they fell 100,000 times.
Yeah.
But never did we tell them, like, what the hell are you doing? You don't even know how to walk? Stop walking. So no one tells that to their child.
You're disgracing me when you're falling.
Yeah, exactly. And so as parents, sometimes you just have to be supportive and be standing there and allowing them to take their own journey. Because when they fall, they learn that next time I need to balance my feet like this and need to walk like that to try to control my pace. And that's how they learn to walk.
Yeah. I think the thing with things like that, that's very similar to the Nigerian culture, right? When you come second in class and you come home, you get questioned. The person that came first, did they have two heads? Right? So it's like, okay, but I came second. It was just a point difference. Can I get credit? Right? So thank goodness for advancement. Thank goodness for, the medical field and psychological evaluation. I think the thing with those emotional injury, right? I don't want to call them, damage, but they can be damaging. Those emotional injury is that people tend to downplay their impact because it's not physical, right? So if I visibly see somebody with a fractured arm, I'm like, oh my God, that must be painful. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's get you help. But if somebody is depressed, it's like, well, but you look fine, right? You look fine. So I think the happy medium is to educate, because I'm an educator. I absolutely love the premise of educating. It's about educating parents about the importance and the impact the words spoken have. Those actually have a longer impact than a physical a hit, because you're going to hit me. If I am not bleeding, or even if I'm bleeding, I'm going to heal. The only reminder of that thing may be the scar. I can look at it and remember. But with emotional trauma, it actually directs the path that people take sometimes in life, right? So in your experience, how can what is your suggestion? You already actually just said part of it of what you and your wife practice consciously. So what would be your suggestion? Because I don't like the word advice, because people get defensive about that. What would be your suggestion to parents raising kids who are very extremely impressionable by their parents' action and also the society? What will your suggestion be to those parents? And also for our listeners who are adults that have experienced something similar, what will also be your suggestion to them?
Beautiful. That's a very thoughtful question. And as you were speaking about the injury that or the damage or whatever word that we very intentionally and thoughtfully use for the impact of our words,
Mm-hmm.
I think words are such that once you've said something, you really cannot take it back. You can apologize and you can do whatever you can, but that hurt, that emotion, that's going to stay for a very long time. So I think being just mindful of how you're going to speak to the other person, that's something that is very, very critical. And the second thing that comes to mind is that, sometimes we feel that since that person, the child in front of us, is like a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, they are somewhere inferior than us, but they actually are not. Because, and if you look at, I know I'm inching into spirituality a little bit, but if you look at the Indian spirituality and the system that we have, it says that the soul continues to age over lifetimes. And the soul that I might have or you might have might be younger than a child's soul. And if the child has more wisdom that it has collected over these different births, then who am I or you to say anything to the child and think of them as inferior?
Wow.
And I think with that thought, it just becomes like, think of them as equals. Yes, they don't have all the information. Yes, they deserve all the information, and you have to protect them. There is no second thought about that. But while you protect them, just be very intentional and thoughtful of what you tell them and how you speak with them. That's one. And then second, allow them to have that space where they can spread their wings. I think that's very critical. And just moving on to the second thing that you were saying, if you're a child and you're going through something that, and you've grown up, you're 20, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s sometimes, and you feel that something that your parents said or did still hurts you, I want to ask you, why are you holding on to it? Who is compelling you to hold on to that hurt? Because if you look deeply, they're not here now. You maybe moved continents, maybe they've passed on this life. They're not here, but it's the hurt that you're carrying with yourself. I think just ask yourself, what would it take for you to take that hurt, take that weight off, and just put it on the side and walk forward? And if you're able to do that, then I think it'll be a beautiful journey that you will continue on, that you're already building, and have so much more to achieve.
I love it. I love it. And that taking off takes work. It
does.
takes recognizing it, because the one thing that I've noticed with humans is that we are scared to confront things, especially the
Yeah.
emotional stuff, because you know what? It puts you back in that space of vulnerability, right? It puts you back in that 7-year-old body, for this young person, this person that you brought up, speaking up against mom or dad, right? It puts you back in that place, and that place is not a good space. You have to be willing to confront it. So, is there something like, in addition to like the willingness, so somebody's willing to confront these feelings, but they feel like that emotion is too strong. Therapy is something that helps, right? In addition to therapy, do you think it's prudent for a person to, if the person is still alive, the parent is still alive, do you think it's prudent to have this conversation, however difficult, with the person involved, like the parent or a sibling or an uncle or auntie?
Yeah, I think just start with this place. Therapy absolutely does brilliant things, but start with this place where you can go and say like that you've given up the emotional energy or the emotional hurt that continues, and you can have very thoughtful conversation. So you can go and not think about the anger, the trauma, the fear, the whatever the words that we can come up with, but you can go and say that I want to talk to you because it's important to me and it's important to you. And there could be moments when they would not understand, and that's okay. But you have that conversation because it's helpful for you. So that's number one. Second is, I think, continue working on yourself. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of discipline and daily practice to work on yourself. But that's something that I'd highly recommend that you all do. And then third thing is, just sit with yourself and see what's really hurting, what's the fear, and how do you reframe that fear, because you don't want to live with that. It's in some ways maybe helping you or hurting you. So figure that journey out, and you'll be able to move forward. And I actually I spoke about this in a TEDx that I recently gave, where the core idea that I was sharing, is it that was that courage is what drives us all the time. And then one of my friends said, but Utkarsh, fear is the bigger emotion. Fear is the innate emotion that we have. And so instead of speaking about courage, I spoke about how it's the fear that pushes us to be courageous. So I'd highly recommend, we can put it in the show notes, but people can go and just search my name on YouTube, and hopefully the TEDx should appear.
Oh my goodness, I'm so going to not only put in the show notes, but also listen to it myself, because you just touched on something about fear and sitting with yourself. My life really transformed for me when I learned not to fear my mind, right? I learned not to fear the emotions that were not of mine, but affected me, right? So fear is there to protect us. Fear is our innate protection, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like a mother sitting and a child goes to fall off a table and they reach out, almost involuntary. So that's what fear does for us. But it keeps you in that comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
It protects you. People are scared and fearful to sit in their own mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have a long commute to work. Sometimes I drive an hour, 30 minutes one way. And the most relaxed I feel since I started practicing this for a while now is to sit in the car and drive with zero radio, zero distraction, zero music, and just get in those thoughts and not run
Yeah.
away from it, right? In a case where it's extremely traumatic, right? In addition to therapy, like you said, having a conversation with a person, whether they, agree with you or not. What else can somebody be encouraged to do? Because meditation is something else that I'm not sure if you practice that, just to bring you into that mind space, to be in your thought, right? Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, no, meditation is a beautiful thing. I do it every morning. This morning was my 454th day, I think, without a single break. So meditation is something that I would highly recommend. And even in that, just want to kind of point this out, that sometimes we feel that when we'll sit in meditation, some divine light's going to shine on us, and then we'll be elevated to the next level. It's not necessary. It might not happen until day 100. It might not happen till day 1000. It's okay. Just go and sit there for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes. And if all you can do is to focus on your breath, then that's a great session that you've had. So just tweak meditation also like that.
I love that you say that piece, because everybody expects meditation to be on day one, this divine, sky opening up. No, it's a build, like you have to build to it.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get that distraction in your head. Sit in there. It's okay. It's okay. There's a reason it's there. Maybe it's the blockage. You have to deal with it to move on, to move on, to move on. Sorry, continue. I just got excited.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And we have to let go of that expectation, because when you expect something to open up the divine skies for you, then there's a lot of pressure already. So don't do that. The second is, ask yourself some tough questions. The thing that you spoke about in your car, that's almost like making it your inner sanctuary and having those conversations with yourself, having those conversations with your own thoughts. I think that's a beautiful place. Another thing that I can recommend to our learners is that I have built this journal. It's called the Ignite Life Journal, and it's available on Amazon across the world. And it has about 180 pages of just exercises and questions and activities to help you build a compass, to help you build a very solid anchor in your values, so that you can build a life that you truly cherish, and then that just expresses the gift that you've been given to fellow global citizens that we get to connect with on a daily basis because of the boon of technology.
I love it. So is your book available on Amazon? Because I'm also going to attach that.
Absolutely. I'll share the link.
A global purchaser, right? Very good.
Yes. So if you search Ignite Life Journal on Amazon.com, you will get the link. But I'll send that link to you.
Utkarsh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. You're coming in with tools. I absolutely love it.
Yes.
In that vein, talking about that 7-year-old, that young man that remembered themselves at 7, I went, there's a company that I do their new hire orientation. And these are certified home health aides that are taking care of, people in the community who need this level of assistance. And one thing that we always do before we begin the orientation is we do a welcome where all the staff involved in the orientation process and hiring process all come in, introduce themselves, how long they've been with the company, what they've done before now, and, just a nice welcome, right? And I had a call that I had to step out for when my turn came. So when I came back into the room, the other facilitator, said, hey, the nurse is here, have her introduce herself. So I introduced myself. And in talking about myself, and I always paint a picture of possibility whenever I'm in the room, because it was the picture of possibility that made me see myself in a different light, given my own life story. So I painted this picture of possibility of practically being in the same boat as them at some point in my life, and then working my way up to where, I am blessed today to be a professor, right? And this young man just had this tunnel vision Like he fixated on me and I could feel it. So in talking, I kept going back to him. My spirit kept going back to him. And when we were done, the facilitator actually said, you know what? I actually had them hold off in introducing themselves until you come into the room. Then started off with him. And the first thing he said, and this is a man in his late 30s, almost 40, he said, I've always wanted to be a nurse.
Wow.
My mom discouraged me because I said, it's never too late. If you want to pursue a career in healthcare, nursing, whatever, continue. It's never too late. And the first thing he said was, I've always wanted to be a nurse. And my mom discouraged me right from when I was a little boy, even through high school, even through university, that I ended up going into business. However rewarding it wasn't satisfying. And just as I was about to ask him, why did she discourage you? He held up his hands and said, because I had shaking hands.
Wow. It just sends goosebumps down my spine. Thank you for sharing that.
A mom's concern, a mom's protection of her child overshadowed his desire. I don't blame his mother for trying to protect him, but unfortunately, the impact that had on him was profound. And just by giving him space to be himself, and I told him, hey, you have a business background. You're obviously still coming back to something that involves caring for others. You can get your nursing degree and do the business end of nursing and still be satisfied because you're still caring for people. And it was almost like a portal open, a portal of possibility. So for people that are impactful in the world, what is your suggestion to them when it comes to occupying space? Like you and I are able to occupy space in a different capacity. Given that we understand culturally that there could have been things that were done to benefit the person that have inadvertently affected them in a way that stunts their growth, either emotionally or professionally, what would you suggest to us who have an impact or have a stage to do whenever we have that opportunity?
You know, as you were speaking about that young man who wanted to do nursing, I've just kind of put one point out there. You know, this life is so precious that I feel that I don't want to die with regrets. I want to die with a fulfilled life. And I think if that fulfilled life wants you to be a nurse, wants you to be a pilot, wants you to be a YouTuber, wants you to be a neuroscientist, a researcher, a biochemist, an engineer, whatever the hell it wants you to be,
absolutely
go and do that.
Do it.
Because you owe that to your life and nothing else. And then the second thing is, it's a grave thought, but this could be the last time you and I speak, and I could die tomorrow or tonight, and you could pass on too, because no one controls death. And I'm glad that no one controls death. And so can we do our best today to be our best? I think that's one reflection that's really important. And then the final on the question that you were asking, for people who have been able to build that voice, I think it's very important for them to share that voice vulnerably. I share a lot of the content that I build on LinkedIn and other places where I share my challenges. Because it was not like some straight line and that, from physical therapist, I went to this Columbia Business School professor, became a video editor and videographer, then sales, and then this and that. And no, it was not a straight line. There were self-doubt. Imposter syndrome was shouting as loud as it could. It was telling me, Utkarsh, you'll fail. Utkarsh, you're the mad person. You will never succeed in life. You will be bankrupt and you will die one day and you will be a struggle and everything will be bad. But I kept asking it with a lot of courage. But Utkarsh, what if you succeed? And that's what helps. And that's what I want all of us who have been able to go through this journey to share that journey with authenticity, with vulnerability, so that others can actually see that Utkarsh was not born with this. Idonges was not born with this. She's worked through this process. And that's what you got to learn.
It takes a lot of work. And thank you so much for saying that, because when you see the marketing strategies for the gurus of the world, 0 to 10 million in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks,
I get it. you know,
I've done 39 years and I've not reached 100 million. What the hell am I doing? Such a failure.
If Father creates this down, like, what the hell is wrong with me? Where did I go wrong? What avenue did I not turn? What street did I miss? Right? And it goes in line with people, I'm going to pull marriage into it a little quickly. Marriage is work. Marriage is work. Marriage takes a lot of work, right? So when you hear people talking about, oh, we've been blissfully married for 25 years, be honest. You create a false narrative that people
Yeah.
look up to, that when the
Yeah.
real things happen, it's kind of like, this is not normal because other people are blissfully
Yeah.
married. Success is not linear. Success is
Never.
not linear.
Never.
Success takes work. Success takes losing sleep, right? Learning, a steep learning curve at that. Imagine me, I know healthcare, right? I didn't go to school to do this, right? I did
Yeah.
not go to school to run my business, to stand up and motivate people. But you know what? I dug deep from my experience. I think authenticity, you just touched it, is very, very important. Do not set unrealistic expectation, but also do not let your success further disintegrate somebody else's confidence, right? Be in a place to offer advice and to help. Like the young man that you talked about, he kept coming to you. It just shows the grace that you had to keep listening to him and understanding where he was coming from. If you dismissed him, I'm sure he built up his courage to stand up and say what he needed to say.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that
Absolutely.
eventually happened, right? Imagine
Absolutely it did.
if you dismissed him, what would have happened?
It would have been a deeper hole that he would have digged for himself. And then there would have not been any chance for him to recover unless he would have met someone else. It's not that I'm the only world's best coach. I'm not going to say that. I'm not like the gurus of the world. But what I'm saying is that if you and I are speaking, then I will do my damn best to support you, to listen to you, to share with vulnerability, so that if there's something that you take away, something that helps you crawl back up that hole, I'm there then.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. I love it. Oh goodness, yes. So yeah, we are all, wounded in a sense. Okay. Life has a way of giving you the consequences before it teaches you the lesson, right? And in our dealings in everyday friendship, family relationship, or work experiences, we've been wounded. And we're all healing. I want you, in your experience and also your expertise, to talk about the importance of being aware of your own wounds so you don't project, even in parent relationship. Okay, the reason why I went everywhere else before the parent is that oftentimes that projection comes from personal wounds that may not have been related to the family, but stress from work makes parents come home and lash out at their kids. What is your suggestion for parents to be mindful of their stresses so that their family doesn't suffer the consequences?
Such a deep conversation you're taking us to. For me, what I truly believe is that in all of our work, whether we do it with the businesses or with individual clients, the whole core is that it's a 5-step process for you to resolve anything and everything. Whether we talk about parenting, relationships, careers, professions, health, whatever part of our existence we talk about, it's going to go through 5 levels. And I just want us to also realize that there's no big prize waiting at the end of this journey. It's just a journey where you have to keep going and you have to keep going. And while you take care of yourself and people around you, there's no carrot at the end of the stick that you have to chase.
I thought
And
there
the 5
was.
steps,
I thought there was an apple or something.
there's not. But we don't need a carrot because we're getting so much joy in every single day. Then who cares about the carrot? And we do it because it's important to me and it's important to you.
Right.
And that's what makes it
Right.
easy. So the 5 stages, and quickly so, is the first one is the awareness. Be aware of your emotions, of the other person's emotions, of your environment. That awareness is going to be very critical. And we can speak at length about each one of them. But in the interest of time, I'm just going quickly on the 5. The second is, once you have the awareness, then you go into the stage of acceptance. That something's wrong here. I don't still fully understand. I don't have the skill or the will to get to being a good parent, to get to being a good husband, to get to being a good professional. So have that acceptance that there is a gap between what looks good and where you are. The third step is that you find out the actions. What actions can I take and how do I stack them up to lead to my growth journey? Once you got the actions, the fourth step is to accelerate your journey, where you got to put one step in front of the other, one step in front of the other, and keep increasing your pace to accelerate your journey while you take care of yourself. And then the final stage is the achievement. Once you do that for the next 40 years, then you have a blissfully happy marriage, which will be so full of up and downs that only you will know them. But from the outside, it'll look like, wow, this amazing person, this couple, this marriage, they're just perfect. But inside, they were doing the inner work every single day.
I love it. I absolutely love it. The importance of doing the work. Importance of doing the work. It doesn't always have to be loud. The work does not have to be loud. The work does not have to be a community work. It's here. It's all in you. Doing the work so that you can be a better sister, husband, wife, child, mother, father is very, very important. Be very conscious, in being conscious of your emotions. It's so simple yet complicated at the same time. In being conscious of your emotion, you're going to start noticing that you're conscious of what comes out. You're also going to be conscious of the reaction, which covers those 5 beautiful steps that you talked about. I don't know, is this in your book as well?
This is not in the book. For this,
you need to write
another book then.
Goodness.
Okay.
Don't starve
Perfect.
us, please.
On it, as you said.
Love it.
Thank you.
So let's just close out with this, because we've talked about a lot of things. Let's talk about the parent. We've talked about the child. Okay, we have to take into consideration the parent side of things. I'm a parent, you're a parent. And parenting, I lost my manual, so I don't know. Can I borrow yours? Can I borrow your parenting manual? Because I lost mine. I don't know. My kids didn't come with theirs. So
I never had a manual. I'm writing one. And maybe the next time we do a podcast, there'll be a new book.
I love it.
The parenting manual.
Goodness. We buy everything. We have everything in life that comes with a manual. That's the one thing that we have to put together, in a sense, this whole human being based on our experiences, society, being careful of society, right? And moving this person to be a successful, an individual, whatever success is. So what is your suggestion for parents who have an idea of what they want their children to be it career or even be it marriage, who they marry? I don't want you to marry somebody from this culture or this tribe or this province or this village. I would rather you marry somebody from this side. What would you say to a parent who their kids have decided to do what speaks to their heart and their spirit in a way that may not correspond with what the parent desired, but is not destructive to this child? What would you tell that parent?
They should write it down on a paper and burn that paper. Because here's the thing, as parents, all of us desired, or as human beings, let's even start there. As human beings, all of us desired a simple, straight, growing life. We desired to be in our CEO, boss, whoever we are reporting to, in their seat. We desire $1 million. We desire the pain in the universe to go away, the wars to stop. But none of our desires are coming true. Because there's no desire, there's no shortcut to making this happen. And that child who's growing, you've been given a responsibility to support their growth, but you're not responsible for their journey. At today, if I were to tell my child that study hard to become this and to become a doctor, and this, my child would say, but Dad, you became a doctor and then you gave it up to help others. What the hell was wrong with you? And now you're telling me to do that? So I'm going to create the conditions for them to thrive, but they thrive or not is not in my control. And that's what parents need to understand and learn and work on it every single day. And I'm not saying that let go of your children, throw them out at like 5 years old and let them take, not at all. Support them and care for them and love them and be present for them and talk to them and listen to them and guide them and role model them. If you're busy with your Netflix and your Instagram and your this and that, why are you then expecting them to pick up a book? If you're busy with whatever challenges life is throwing at you, you cannot expect them to learn something different. So you got to role model that behavior to them every day, and it is a challenging task. It is a no return, lifelong, grueling but rewarding journey, because you will grow as a human being. And again, going back to that journal that I just shared about, that journal is the manual for your inner work, which hopefully then will make you a better parent.
Absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. We have expectations. That is what leads to that disappointment when the parent has an expectation of their child, however realistic or unrealistic it is, but it's an expectation. I learned the hard way not to have any expectation of any human being, because I leave zero room for you to disappoint me. So if if whatever, I expect nothing of you. So if you decide to just be the craziest of human beings on earth, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Right? It's like that saying that I think it's Maya Angelou. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. But in this side, on the parenting side of things, as much as the whole career thing, to be honest with you, what I see, is not as a demand of children. It's a measure of success. Every parent wants their children to be successful, but they have these boxes that spell out success. And anything outside of that box is too unstable to understand. And this is a generational thing. And the world is changing. Unfortunately, the world is changing with a parent still alive to see that the traditional things that were successful are not the only, they're still successful, and not the only traditional thing. So you said it so well. The children need structure, but when it comes to the expectation, maybe really back a little bit, or not have, I wouldn't say not have any, because we still expect our kids to be good human beings, good people.
Yeah.
But maybe really back some. Would you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. And expect them to be good human beings, raise them to be good human beings, support them to be good human beings. Don't expect them things from them in return. I think that's or don't expect them to be fulfilling your dreams, because you have your own dreams. Focus on those.
Ooh.
Let them focus on their dreams.
Utkarsh, we're trying to end this conversation, and you're going deeper.
So maybe what I think we can ask our listeners to do is to start to practice what we have spoken about today.
Yes.
Send you emails, comment wherever they're listening to this podcast, to go buy the journal, do some inner work. And if we see that this actually made people do something, put some action, get that rubber meeting the road, then we might do another episode.
Okay, let's do this. Not if I see, okay? We are going to see the changes if you do the homework, okay? You are going to see the changes. So I know, just from talking to Utkarsh, I know his ability, and I know I can feel like what he can do. So I think it will be prudent for anybody who's listening to this conversation, because this is hard work, and it only works if you work. So the book, the journal, is going to be linked. Where you can find him is going to be linked as well. And please, please, please do the work. It will really, really, like I see, is ignite your spark. It will really, really ignite your spark.
Beautiful.
It will really do. And we want to bring you more of this content. We want to bring you more of this conversation. And at some point, we really actually want to open up so we can hear different people's input or questions, so that we can answer it, and he can guide based on his experience. He can guide you heal. The healing is for you. The healing is for you. So thank you so much for being here. Remember, please, when you hold on to that hurt, you're hurting nobody else but yourself. I once heard this saying that, I apply to my life every day. It says anger and unforgiveness is like drinking poison and watching the other person die.
Never gonna happen.
So
Never
when you
gonna
hang
happen.
on to that hurt, that anger, you're poisoning your system and expecting the other person to suffer for it. Please, 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 my listeners, I love you all. Thank you for listening. Please, please, please do the work. We're here to support you anywhere that we can. And I thank you so much, Utkarsh, for being here.
Thank you so much.
It's been a
Thoroughly
pleasure.
enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Same
much.
Here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care of yourselves,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Abeg Vex podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.